cognition, our level of comprehension, purely by adding more data. What that forces us to come up with is, does that mean we now have an answer to consciousness? Right? Does that mean that consciousness is purely a result of probabilistic calculation? Right? Because that's what these large models are doing. These large models are taking in vast amounts of data. Right? They're taking in huge amounts of data, and they're calculating the probabilities of one outcome versus another. And whichever one is closest to ground truth, that one goes into training, and it just iterates and iterates and iterates. So the question is, the fundamental philosophical question is, if we're reaching AGI, to us, what that really means is independent intelligence. In other words, sentience. It means that this model now has the ability to think for itself and learn on its own without our input, which is what we can do, right? Humans, as a species, we have the ability to learn without input. At the most basic level, if I touch something and it's hot, I'm never going to touch it again if I know that it's hot. I'm going to learn that sensation. So the question is, if we are going to continue to go down this path of AGI, does that mean we have to basically identify consciousness? Right? Do we have to define sentience? And now you might be thinking, okay, well, what does that mean? Which, first of all, does anybody want to share on what they think on that? Yes.
So I don't see how just because something is artificially intelligent, right? How its motivation, right? So just to repeat what he's
I will. I'll give a second.
So just because something, like I said, you have a large language model, it's basically a big database, right? Like what motivates, I mean, database expected steps. Like how is it going to take act, like how is it going to decide what actions to take in the world, right? As people, we can decide to take action. We can come to this tonight and choose to stay home because it's raining. What motivates an intelligence to take some type of action outside of just whether it's a chatbot or whether it's going to decide protein activation sites or discover new mathematical equations. These are all things that we ask of this model. But then we talk about artificial general intelligence, we think of something that takes action in the world. Where's the trade-off?
So the question here is, if we're going to define AGI as self-determination, let's say, how do we measure what is motivating the model to make the decision that it makes? Right? Basically, more or less. So how do we decide what motivates the model to take action? So currently, it is entirely probabilistic. So there is no motivation, there is only the prediction. So motivation assumes a centralized goal, right? A centralized goal in a machine learning model is loss. That's all it is. So it's just, we want the loss of the ground truth and what I predicted to be as low as possible. So if the real value is 10, I want to get as close to 9.99999 as possible, because I, as the creator, have determined that a low loss, a small amount between the ground truth and what you predicted, that is valuable. That is the valuable outcome that I want. Okay, so this is why this is philosophical.
No, wait. Aren't you saying something about morality?
Morality?
You're saying something about morality, right or wrong. The decision versus whether we should actually do the thing that doesn't exist within the AI system.
Right.
One thing. Secondly, do you think, suppose you can take your argument, which I really don't know, but it seems to me that predicts the next thing in the sequence based on what's been there before. Do you think that way, every word that comes out of your mouth is just the most probable thing based on what happened before?
According to what? And that's the question, right? What's up?
It seems like this whole question kind of goes back to the same age-old like free will conversation.
Yeah.
And so how do you get a legal argument out of something that doesn't just delve into, oh, what is sentience? Like, how do we define that? And then you end up in this like ever-ending, unless there was a measurement of like what AGI means from the beginning, like if you can, unless it can do this, then it seems like you're just kind of chasing an endless
So
stream.
this is exactly why I chose this as my topic today. Because now, I'm going to stand up because I'm getting heated. So now, we're reaching a point where philosophy and law have to meet, right? Philosophy and law, the intersection up until now has been common thought.
But they've already had a problem, right? When it said, when the chat box began saying very offensive things, right?
Offensive things.
Okay. They had to put rules to persuade it, right?
Yeah.
So it keeps it from being as openly creative as it can be, right? So once you start doing these hodgepodge things, you're already taking away from them, right? You're not allowing it to be really thinking.
Right. So here's the question. Okay, go ahead.
Secondly, these models predict based on data. They don't explain. Human ability is to explain. We want to find the cause and keep digging. You don't find relativity by looking at probabilistic things. You find it by looking at improbabilistic things. And slowly counterintuitive things that don't follow from.
So this ingenuity, right? This ingenuity of humans to not just follow the most probabilistic path. This is what we can't define, measure, and explain as people, right? We don't fundamentally know why we are motivated to do what we do. We know at a basic level, we have a reward system, right?
When you say when Plato said apple falls, because it's in its nature to fall, it wasn't enough to say that. But then came Newton and said, no, it's not exactly nature. There is a law behind that. And then he went to the next level. And he did experiments, which of course probably more probabilistic things confirmed things. But they are not explanations. So that's very different from saying, given the data, will predict something. That's very different.
Right. So right now, and a lot of what you said, I would add to the end of it, yet. Right? When we explain the models of these, when we explain the behaviors of these models and what we see, we don't see native ingenuity to figure out why something happened and understand the underlying factors in a language model yet. Because a language model has not evolved to do that yet. But this is the question.
Human beings, we learn languages based on very different data. Almost very non-existent data. Babies, they learn languages with a very broken set of data. They just pick it up because of the language organ.
Right. But what motivates that baby to learn more?
No, the question is that. What motivates not that? The thing is, it cannot work with the broken data. Also, if you look at it, it's structured. So, chatbots don't need human languages. They can create any set of thought. We can't do that. We need a grammar. And the grammar comes out by is a very constrained system. That underlies the kind of things that we imagine.
So we're getting a little deep into the formation of language itself, right? So those rules, for example, the rules of language are not natural. They came out of a group of people who agreed.
Read Chomsky.
Huh?
Read Chomsky.
Okay.
They're not creative. They're not natural.
But my point is they had to be agreed upon. They had to be agreed upon though at one point. Like you can't have your own rules of grammar that I don't have.
I cannot maybe or American parents are like in China. Right?
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
Baby born of a Swedish parents in China can learn Chinese.
Yeah.
There is a reason because there is a universal grammar.